RuneScape company Jagex have a new CEO. Let's talk about that. So off the back of RuneFest, which happened not very long before this announcement was made, Phil Mansell, or Mod Pips, has been said to be stepping down from his role as CEO, and a new mod called Mod North is taking his place. They've posted a video about this change, and we're going to be checking that out first.
Hello Scapers. After 14 incredible years at Jagex, with 8 as CEO, I'm stepping back from my role. I'm handing over the baton to someone I know deeply cares about RuneScape and who is going to build upon the strong foundation we have built so far. But before I introduce him, I have a few parting words. I'm incredibly thankful for my time here and for the opportunity to shape these amazing games with the team at Jagex and with the community. I joined Jagex back in 2011 to follow my passion for MMORPGs and gaming communities, and I stayed because I fell in love with RuneScape and felt at home amongst kindred spirits. I'm honoured to have worked with such a talented team and to have created so many memories together, like launching Oldschool, the Game Blast charity events, releasing both RS3 and Oldschool on mobile and then on Steam, introducing new game modes like Iron Man and Dead Man and Leagues. There's been a decade of killer content in both games. I remember maxing my account at RuneFest 2016 as well. These are wonderful memories that will stay with me forever. I'm really proud of what the team has achieved together. We didn't get everything right, but the RuneScape games have come a hell of a long way.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversies, but there's been a lot of good things too, I suppose.
RuneScape is now recognised as one of the top MMORPG franchises. We've grown the RuneScape communities to record levels. We were one of the first PC MMOs to go fully mobile, and we're amongst the most community-driven games and studios out there.
I want to say that there's still one of the few PC MMOs that have actually made the transition and included mobile. At least among the big names of MMOs. The only ones I can really think of off the top of my head are like Albion is mobile as well, I believe. But between like big old MMO names like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, stuff like that, none of those have mobile, and I don't really know how you would do those as mobile. A bunch of games have released with mobile versions since this, but I'm thinking like the old ones that didn't have mobile versions on release and then later would have gotten mobile versions. There's a whole bunch of MMOs now these days that have mobile versions as well, but they released with the mobile version, and that's the difference. If RuneScape Mobile was worth all the effort and if it was a good decision is I guess a debate in itself, but it is true that they were one of the first ones to make the mobile version of their original game.
These were only possible because of the dedication of our JMods and their close connection to the community. And RuneFest this past weekend showcases that perfectly. And that's why I know this is the right time to pass the torch to a new leader for Jagex. This is someone I know will guard what is precious about the RuneScape games and will work hard to make them even better for players. So I'm very pleased to introduce my successor, John Mod North. John is a familiar face within Jagex from his first stint here 10 years ago. We've kept in touch since. John is a high-level and long-term RuneScape player. We've always been catching up and chatting about the latest content releases or community debates and dramas. So it was our good fortune that John agreed to join us as an advisor last year.
I should have to laugh because you mentioned like, yeah, we talk about the content releases and the dramas. You gotta include the drama calendar.
And he's been helping us in the background for many months. John's got this rare combination of really deep RuneScape experience and strong business leadership skills, which is why I think he is the ideal leader for the next stage of Jagex's journey. For me, I'll be supporting John and the Jagex team in this transition. And then, after over a decade of leading RuneScape, I'm going to enjoy a bit of a break. I'm always going to be a massive fan. I'll take such joy at seeing the awesome things the Jagex teams and the community create together, and I'll be cheering them on as RuneScape becomes even bigger.
He said he's taking a break, so like, does that mean he's coming back? Is it like a temporary thing? I don't think it is, because he's helping the new CEO get in touch with all the mechanics of running everything. I don't know, it's a weird way of wording it.
I'll now turn it over to John to introduce himself.
Thanks so much, Phil. I want to start by saying how much respect I have for you and all that you've done for the company. I think you may know, but I left Jagex right before you became CEO. And I can genuinely say that as I rejoin the team now, I'm joining a team that has grown so much and is newer and improved versus the one that I left. That's huge testament to your leadership and your passion for our games and our company. And I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone for everything you've done. You're leaving big shoes to fill, and I feel so honored to have been chosen to lead this company. This is very much for me a homecoming. I've been playing RuneScape in its various guises for more than 20 years now. And what was once a niche medieval point-and-click MMORPG on PC has grown into 2 cornerstone games with millions of us, players past and present. That is a rare thing. So turning first to Old School. I've been incredibly proud of how far Old School has come as a player voting in polls for the last 8 years or so, for better or worse. What's made this game extraordinary for so long is, in my opinion, the interaction between the team and the players. It really is a game built for the players, by the players, and with community at the front and center of everything we do.
My first impression is this guy gives off alpha energy. I don't know why that's my first impression, but it is. Like, if this guy walks into a room, you're like, oh shit, it's that guy, you know? I suppose that's a good thing to have as a CEO. You want to feel your presence when you walk into the room, right? Anyway, let's continue.
By staying true to these values going forwards, I absolutely believe that the golden years of Old School RuneScape are still ahead of us. Moving to RuneScape 3. It's such a precious game to so many millions, and I believe it deserves another 20 years of sustainable, healthy existence, defined by the same qualities that have driven much of Old School RuneScape's success. Community obsession, authenticity and clarity of identity, reverence for the game's DNA, and perhaps most importantly, economic integrity.
Yeah, about that last one now. Microtransactions are a hot topic in RuneScape 3. It's honestly insane to me that microtransactions have been in RuneScape 3 for longer than they haven't been in the game, and people still hate it so passionately, despite the small selection of whales that seem to keep it going. Can't say that RuneScape 3 is in a healthy place with the microtransactions though. It's one of the most heavily monetized MMOs that exists. On PC, I have to clarify that because there's some nasty... We don't talk about mobile. Mobile's a hellscape of microtransactions anyway. You don't want to even be compared to mobile, that's how bad it is. And yet RuneScape does kind of come close to those mobile things. You've got loot boxes, you've got a massive amount of premium currencies, you've got battle passes which have stopped now, I have to say, but they were going for years as well. In-game cash shop, purchase benefits like increased bank space, quality of life additions, additional add-on membership purchases, on top of being able to purchase in-game money for real-life currency. You've pretty much got everything except battle passes at the moment. The only reason there's not battle passes at the moment is because there was a massive storm of hate towards the previous iteration of it. The sad thing is that a lot of those systems were included into the game during ModPips' time at the company. And unfortunately, as it is to say, a lot of those systems have gotten more predatory with time. And I'd like to see them really tone down a lot of that, but it's hard to know if they're doing it because they want to increase profits or if they're doing it because of shareholder interests in wanting to meet certain targets for income. It's not something that the players really have much insight into. And why would they? It's not really relevant to the players if the company needs to meet a certain revenue target every year. And I guess from a player's perspective, it's just kind of disheartening seeing all those monetary systems be added. And all I can really say is I hope that those systems don't find their way into Old School RuneScape.
The priority for RuneScape 3 must be long-term health and sustainability. And the recent release of Group Ironman mode and RS3's recently announced inaugural league coming later this year are fantastic examples of the direction of travel I'll be endorsing. I want to say that I love these games, and I understand where the lines in the sand are. My plan is to stay true and committed to the values and principles that make our games and our player communities so very special. My goal is not to come in here and make big sweeping changes to our core games. In fact, that's the exact opposite of what I want or plan to do. I know that there is no better team on Earth at stewarding, maintaining, and growing the universe of RuneScape.
It is nice to hear that he doesn't want to change massive things about the current systems, but then I also feel like RuneScape 3 could maybe benefit from having some sweeping changes, at least towards the microtransactions of the game. But it's good to know that he doesn't plan on changing those things for old school, which is what it seems like he's saying here. And that he knows to keep microtransactions out of old school, assuming you ignore buying in-game money for real-life currency in old school, because you can do that through bonds. But
I really do believe that at its best, Jagex's community-centric approach to managing our games is the best in the world. And transparency has long been key to building these amazing games from our side of the screen to yours. And in that spirit, you can expect to hear more from me in the coming days. For now, I'd like to end the way we started and thank Phil, Mod Pips, for his many years of service at Jagex and for his part in creating the games we know and love today.
alright, so what do the people think about all this? I think mixed feelings is putting it pretty accurately. Comments have been turned off. Oh, that's a good start, isn't it? Don't want to hear what the community has to say, huh? But that's okay, because we've got Reddit we can check for comments.
Stepping down probably because he can't change investors' mindset and doesn't want to be blamed for the fiesta coming up.
Hopefully that isn't the case.
I think he got forced out, and new ownership wanted to put their own guy in charge.
So Mod North has been on the board of directors. It's not an outrageous take, I guess, but...
Or forced out for making an unauthorized apology for the survey, and replaced with a yes man.
Oh yeah, the survey. They never addressed that, did they? It was a monetization survey. It caused a lot of drama.
Guys, I just listened to a podcast and watched part of a webinar. Jagex's new CEO talks about not having to shove a bunch of content in to keep things fresh, and advocates for pay to win in this. Also mentions blockchain and his timeline being filled with NFTs and not much else. I think we're all going to miss Mod Pips if this stance doesn't change. Gonna be hard to miss Pips when he almost single-handedly killed the game with Hero Pass and never talked about the survey information before leaving. Pips deserves no praise for the absolute trash way he led RuneScape.
Slightly contentious opinion, perhaps, but I think Hero Pass would have worked if they just hadn't put in pay-to-win elements into it. If it was just cosmetic, it would have been fine. Saying that, I'm not unhappy that it's gone, frankly. I don't really care if it's there or not. They tried to bite off more than they could chew with it, and it ended up crashing and burning.
We want to be clear, this transition does not signal a change in monetization strategy well. At least they were clear about their intentions. I still enjoy both games. So here's to hoping that new content will flow and keep me engaged.
Yeah, I think that monetization strategy needs to change for RuneScape 3, but if it will or not is just slaves to be seen, I suppose. I think it's way too heavily monetized as is. Like, I enjoy RuneScape on my own time, but it's not a game that I would encourage a new player to try out at the moment because it's so heavily monetized. Now, old school is a different question. If anyone wanted to try out old school RuneScape, I'd be like, yeah, it's a great game. It has tons of fun things to do. It's a bit grindy, and by a bit, I mean very grindy, but it's a good game. Like, RuneScape has great gameplay too. It's just the microtransaction soup it's not good.
We will continue maintaining fairness in the in-game economy, ensuring that updates respect the balance of the game world, with transparency in our decisions, and a willingness to explore meaningful changes to MTX offerings in RuneScape. Mod North's first major task in building trust with the 3 Rupees community is quite simple. Do what Pips failed to do and prove that bolded bit. Give us the MTX follow-up and a tangible discussion on meaningful change to the game's monetization strategy.
3 rupees? Okay. Willingness to explore meaningful changes to MTX offerings in RuneScape is very vague. It could both mean, like, tone down the microtransactions, but it also could mean ramp up the microtransactions. Meaningful changes just means that they want to stir the pot of what exists at the moment. And that could be more, it could be less. It's just, it doesn't specify. But for sure, if you want to start changing microtransactions, the first step is definitely to become good friends with the community.
Always remember that change isn't always to our benefit.
I feel like there's a lot of skepticism in the community, and I feel like that's justified because things have been bad for RuneScape for a long time in terms of monetization. People have felt like they don't get listened to, that the company wants more and more revenue, and nothing really ever changes. But then you could also argue that doing things over and over again and expecting different results from the same situation is insanity, and that nothing was ever going to change with the old CEO on the top. So having a new CEO has the potential of shifting things up and seeing where things go for the future. But as people are stating here, the job of the CEO is to make money for the company, but in a way that encourages the community to spend money as well. You want the community to be happy about spending money in your product. There are plenty of games where I'm happy to give some money, even if it is for microtransactions, because the game is so good and provides such a good experience. So having microtransactions in a game isn't necessarily bad if the game is providing you with an experience that you enjoy. The problem with RuneScape is that people don't feel like the amount of microtransactions equals the amount of enjoyment they get from the content. There's too much microtransactions and not enough enjoyable content. And so while a lot of the comments are true that Mod North is now here to make money for RuneScape's company, it's also very true that he wants to make the players happy, because happy players tend to spend more money than unhappy players. So a lot of the skepticism in these comments is completely justified in my opinion. As far as first impressions and opinions, honestly couldn't tell you. I've not seen or heard much of Mod North. If he worked at Jagex before, never heard his name. He must have been more behind the scenes. There were comments to the new CEO's LinkedIn page, and you can see that he was at Jagex for about 3 years back in 2016, 2015, mainly in analyst roles. So he was doing strategy and research. He began as a venture capitalist for about a year afterwards. He then spent about 5 years at huge games. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, these these games rub me the wrong way. I am not the demographic for these. Let's just leave it at that. Casino mobile games, where he went from director of strategy and planning all the way up to CCO. He's been an advisor, an angel investor. He then joined CVC, which is currently connected to Jagex, back in 2023. He was there for almost 2 years before becoming part of the board of directors in Jagex back late last year, and is now the CEO. It makes me uneasy that Mod North's background is in venture capital and playing a large part in a game that runs slot machines and gambling. This doesn't end here though. There is another video that was posted a couple days after the announcement of the new CEO. This being a question and answer session with CEO Mod North.
Hello everyone and welcome to a very special video. I'm your host, Mod Aiza, Lead Community Manager for Oldschool Runescape, and I'm joined by the wonderful...
I am Mod Yuri, Community Manager for RuneScape.
And today we are joined by the one and only Mod North, Jagex's new CEO. Hello Mod North.
Hello again. Hello. I'm good, I'm rested. RuneFest took it out of me for a bit, but I'm good, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, RuneFest, of course, we can't forget that. We have a load of questions to get through, but we're going to break the ice a little bit first. Let's talk about RuneFest.
Just gonna put it out here right off the bat is that Mod North feels a lot more comfortable already. He seemed a little bit uneasy, very serious in the first video. Maybe the setting for this recording is a little bit more laid back and relaxed, so everyone feels a bit more comfortable about it. I don't know. The previous announcement felt very, is corporate a word I can use? It felt very official. And it was, I mean, I don't know, at least from my point of view, this already seems better, and we're only 30 seconds into it.
I had a fantastic time personally. How did you find RuneFest, Mod North? Were you there?
I was there, yeah. I mean, I've been at a few of them in the past as well, both as an employee and a player. And actually to see the sort of, the build up over 6 years and the sudden sort of relief moment when everybody got together again was amazing for me. Real goosebumps. I think it wasn't just amazing for the players, but to see our team as well, interacting and getting together and spending time with the people they're trying so hard for was just like really special thing.
Yeah, it was really, really wholesome, heartwarming throughout. Did you have a favorite moment if you had to pick one throughout the whole weekend?
I think watching Austin try and chug that beer for about a minute straight, I think that was amazing.
And the socks, don't forget the socks.
I've never seen so much hype over a single thing, and it was socks. Yeah, it was amazing.
It definitely carried through for the entire event. I've been on 2 panels afterwards and it was just socks, socks, socks.
We'll have to check our sales of socks after the event and see if that's our new best product.
They're pretty much sold out after that, I think.
Yeah, I bet.
It's amazing.
Okay, well, let's get into some light touch questions to begin with. I'm sure people are keen to know a little bit more about your background, but before we get into that, I just want to ask a very generic question of how does it feel to be stepping into the shoes of CEO at Jagex?
Yeah, it's an honor. It's a genuine honor. I've been playing these games for more than 20 years, as I said, and sort of come full circle and assume responsibility in this way is It's hard to describe. I'm imminently aware of, or deeply aware of, the responsibility to our players and our people. This is very, very precious ground. It's hallowed earth. And so yeah, I'm just very conscious that this needs to be treated, our games need to be treated with the utmost care and respect, and our communities too, obviously.
For sure.
Nice. So you touched on that. So for anyone watching who don't know who you are, for example, can you tell us a little more about your games industry experience, like with Jagex or RuneScape, for example?
Yeah, of course. So as a professional, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I started my career at Jagex. I didn't go into the investment banking job that I should have gone into. Instead, I went and joined a video games company that I loved. And part of that was to spite the parents who'd been saying, you'll never get a job if you play that game all day. Look at me now, Mum. That said, so that's how I got into the industry. After that, I spent the next few years only working in gaming. So first as an investor, I invested in a bunch of early stage gaming studios to try and create the next big games of the world. After that, I joined a radically different business to Jagex, a business called Huge Games, which is a mobile gaming business, very monetization oriented, entirely different to Jagex and what this company needs. And then, saw that company through an IPO, did a lot of good work with the players of those games. And then sort of through a winding path, found my way back to Jagex in the last sort of 6 months. So it's amazing to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a while that he just ended up back at Jagex. Surely to get to that point, you have to have a certain plan, right? You don't just wind up as a CEO of a company, surely. That doesn't swing right with me. But I mean, good on him, good on him. He didn't shy away from his experience in the microtransaction game company either, so it's good that he mentioned that, honestly. If he hadn't mentioned that, it would have felt like he was trying to hide it underneath a rug, so he's not shy about it, and that's a good thing. And he also said it's what this company doesn't need, so that's a good step as well, right? Of course, I gotta say that all of these things are just words, right? Actions speak louder than words. The only way we'll know for sure what actually happens is to experience it, right? To see where things go and the actions that are taken for the game. But it is a good first step that he is addressing and saying things like, we don't want these things, right? It sets the tone and the groundwork as a positive experience. Sure, it could all be words, but it is nice to hear them say these things at least. And then time will tell if that is actually how things play out or not.
Welcome, exactly that. Okay, so I know a little bit about your background in terms of actual gaming. You've spoke to me a little bit about RuneScape and Oldschool. Claim to be max in RuneScape?
At one point I was. This was before some of the recent 110s, but at one point a couple of years ago I was maxed.
That's a pretty good achievement. And what about Oldschool? So we know we're close to max. What's your total level?
2175.
Wow. Okay, so you are relatively close.
Can you tell that I checked?
You were prepared for this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's a high total level sort of in a literal sense, but I'm miles away. I think I'm like high mid-80s on agility, mining, and rune crafting. So I'm about a quarter of the.
Agility and runecrafting both suck, so I completely understand why he wouldn't be high on those ones. Runecrafting has gotten better over the years with Guardians of the Rift, but it's still not great. Agility just sucks.
You really saved the best for last.
Exactly.
That is good.
That's it. I'm not really a total level skiller kind of guy. I think I'm a PVMer, very casual most of all. I've been a PvPer in the past, but terrible. But now I'm a TOB obsessive.
Awesome. So you know your level. Well, what is your favorite piece of content, would you say?
Yeah, it's got to be Theatre of Blood. It's got to be. Like, I get hard carried every time by the group that I play with. And I always end up being the mage and like freezing Nilos. But yeah, I love it. For whatever reason, I think that second raid that Oldschool did has real alchemy in it. I love TOA, I love Chambers, but for whatever reason, Top's the one for me.
Oh, I like it. You speak in my language because it's also my favorite raid.
We will raid at some point. We'll do that.
So you fancy at some point? Maybe we'll jump on stream and showcase your skills.
I'm going to regret saying it, but yes, absolutely. Let's do
it here first.
I love that. That's fantastic. He said he sucks at it and that he only does like side rolls, but it's cool to see that, the CEO of a company would be up for going onto a live stream and just playing the game. That's not something you see very often. Frankly, in my own memory, I can't think of a single CEO that has done something like that. So I really hope that Mod Aiza pushes for that to happen because I'd love to see that. Also, him just using old school RuneScape terms like TOA, TOB so casually in conversation conversation means that he's certainly talked about it before, right? It shows a certain level of game knowledge, which is nice to see, honestly.
The community stream coming to you. We'll have Mod North with the team of TOB carries.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Okay, so a little bit of the fun stuff out of the way. There's some pretty serious questions. We had the announcement go out on Tuesday, just of this week, and with there we asked the community what questions that they might have for you based on the announcement. Now, some of our players are wondering why now has the CEO suddenly changed? And more specifically, was that tied to, quite frankly, some of the backlash that we saw from the players regarding the conjoint analysis around membership?
No, not even remotely. These changes, to change the CEO of a business like this, it takes months of prep and timing. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's definitely not a fast thing to do. And so changes like this don't happen overnight and in response to single items like this. Actually, my respect for Mod Pips, as you've already heard, is huge. He managed this business as a CEO for 8 years. He'd been part of the team for 14. He took a 20-year-old point-and-click browser MMO to its greatest player numbers ever late last year, alongside obviously your fantastic teams. But what he's done is not to be knocked, and I can't think of anyone else who's done something similar.
So I gotta interject here, because while this is true that the combined total of players for both games was one of the highest, if not the highest, it's ever been last year during the Oldschool Runescape League, I believe. And Oldschool, as far as I'm aware, last I checked, was growing in player numbers. The same can't be said for RuneScape 3, and that breaks my heart a little bit, because RuneScape 3 has been going in the opposite direction for a long time. It got a boom back in 2020, I believe, when everyone was inside for 2 years. It's been dropping again since then. So it's nice to celebrate old schools becoming such a big thing, but it hurts as well at the same time, as someone who likes playing both games, that RuneScape 3 isn't, it's suffering a bit from players leaving slowly but surely.
So no, this is definitely not a knee-jerk reaction to anything that's happened in the past few months.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying. And I'd just like to, if possible, another difficult one, potentially, talk more specifically around that conjoint membership analysis. Is there anything that we feel players should know about right now? Anything that they may expect to hear from in the future?
Yeah, that conjoint analysis was a total misstep, just total misstep. I've been a player for 20 years, and my first feeling seeing that conjoint go live was, that was a mistake. That's not who we are. Ultimately, I was a board member at the time, total responsibility for that alongside the rest of the management team and the board. However, it was a mistake, and I think we're 100% clear on that. It shouldn't need to be said out loud, but there will never be microtransactions in Oldschool RuneScape, ever. This will never be an advertising-driven business. That's not who we are.
That is a very direct and bold statement. It's nice to hear, but that comment could bite him in the future. But see, the thing also is that Oldschool doesn't necessarily need microtransactions if they can find new ways to monetize the game otherwise. And they're already working on something like that, which I'm sure all of you know about. It's called Project Zonaris, and it's official private servers. That's not necessarily microtransactions, but it's a new form of monetization. And frankly, I don't see anything wrong with that. By selling official servers, sort of like Minecraft Realms do, right? You can profit off of a largely community-driven new feature. And I think that's a good pathway to follow personally.
I'm aware of that, management's aware of that, the team's aware of that, and the players are definitely aware of that. But I just, for the sake of clarity, total misstep, lines in the sand.
Okay.
So it's easy for them to say this now, in hindsight, like, oh, it was a mistake, we saw how the backlash. But it is also nice to hear them say that there was a mistake and they don't want to do any of it. So now we just gotta hope that they don't try to pull it in regardless.
Great. Again, thank you for the extra clarity. And there's one more thing I'll press you about on this matter, and that is around improvements. One of the things that came out of that was a perceived notion for value when players are paying for their membership, especially around our services that we offer them. Is there anything that players can expect to learn more about on that?
Yeah, good question. Absolutely, yes. So we will be publishing a roadmap for customer service improvements in April, so in 1 month. But you can expect to see a lot of what you might expect to see. Things like more human interaction in the process, transparency of ticket management processes, some self-serve functionality, all of the things that you'd really hope to see from a best-in-class live game customer service production. It's not all going to drop overnight, but there is a real clear process, and we're going to treat this just like a large piece of content that's rolling out, whether it's Zaya Varlamore or Sailing, and check in with the community procedurally and frequently with status updates. So yeah, April.
That is a good addition because the current customer service experience for RuneScape leaves a lot to be desired. It was very good in the past and it's kind of dropped off. Not to throw shade at the customer service mods or anything like that. I'd say that they just don't have enough of those people. And especially not having a proper system on the website to properly get in touch with customer support. Having to go to third-party websites like X to get customer support for a game is honestly ridiculous to me. And so I'd really like to just see features where those things have spots on the website where you can just contact the company, you know, and get in touch with them without having to create a social media account to talk to them.
So as our CEO, what is your, would you say, is your vision for Jagex, RuneScape, Oldschool Runescape? What would you say is your 10-year plan, for example, between 5 to 10 years?
10-year plans to grow the communities of both, and it really is that simple. So Jagex as a business is fantastic at maintaining and building and growing Oldschool RuneScape and RuneScape 3, and shortly RuneScape Survival. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
RuneScape Survival is something I've not heard a lot about, so I'm curious. You've piqued my interest, sir. What is all this about? So far, I've only heard rumors of it on like random Reddit posts from LinkedIn where they search for new employees for a new unannounced game.
But actually, what's closest and nearest to my heart is taking Oldschool RuneScape and RuneScape 3, not meddling with the formula, making them incrementally better with the most fantastic designers, I think, on earth for these games. I'm looking to many of your respective teams here. I think if I get out of the way and empower and endorse and support those teams to continue doing what they've been doing, particularly in the case of Oldschool, and we'll talk a bit more about the differentiations between each shortly, I suspect. Get out the way, empower them to do what they do best, deliver fantastic content that players want for years on end. And we supplement that with a bit of hype building. I actually think there's no reason why these communities can't grow healthily for the next sort of 5-10 years. And to be honest, in the case of RuneScape 3, I think we need to think longer than 10 years. It needs to be 25, 50 years in the future. There's no reason why these games can't have another 25 years in the case of a game like RuneScape 3. We just need to make sure that that game, its economic model, its integrity is set up for another 25 years of sustainable, healthy growth.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it is at the moment. I think they need to work on that a bit. Like I said earlier, the player numbers are going down slowly, but they are going down. That's not something you want to see. And I think if you can change the perspective and the opinions of the player base of the game, they will start to endorse and hype up the game more to people, which will then just bring in more people as well. Having a player base that plays your game, but kind of resents the way the game is run, doesn't endorse new players to come in. So that's a fundamental change that they're going to have to challenge themselves to potentially address at some point.
Exclamation mark, remind me, 25 years.
Yeah. So you remind us.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So elephant in the room within the community has been your previous roles. And you mentioned yourself working at Huge. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've personally seen many players with a large amount of skepticism behind your intentions coming into Jagex, fearing the worst case being hugely aggressive monetization across both games. What's your response to that?
There will never be microtransactions in Oldschool RuneScape, and RuneScape 3 needs to be less aggressive on monetization in order to build sustainability for the next 25 years. It's as clear as I can be. I've seen firsthand what these hyper-monetizing games on mobile look like. That is not what our games are, and it is not what they need. It's totally incompatible. So while I totally have respect for the skepticism and perhaps cynicism about my background and thinking, oh God, I don't want my community and my game to go in that direction, it will not.
That is really good to hear from my perspective. I mean, he's saying the right words here. The actions will, of course, determine how things end up playing out, but as far as his words go, these are exactly the things that you'd want to hear from a new CEO, especially if you're uneasy about their intentions. If you're of the opinion that he's just saying this to make friends and build trust with the community, That's a completely fair opinion to have, honestly. Why would he not want to do that, right? But on the flip side of the coin, he could have just not said anything, or he could have said that he wants to make it worse. I don't think that would have been a good way to go about it. He could have ignored the comment. They could have just not asked him this. But the fact that they are asking him, and he is saying that they need to do healthier monetization of the game, that is a positive thing. And again, we just gotta hope that the actions line up with what he's saying here.
So MTX is obviously a very big topic in the RS3 community. We've had a whole mass of questions that have been coming in regarding this. Last year we had a consultancy questionnaire about NTX to our players. So what can they expect? Has there been any update on this that we can tell our players?
Yeah, good question. So I looked at that consultancy when it went live. I think I responded myself, and I've seen some of the results since. Look, my view on this is we're not in a sustainable holding pattern right now with the way that RuneScape 3 monetizes. That's no secret. The community knows this. It was clear in the feedback. Our internal team knows this, and our team are extraordinary. They care about this game more than you'd believe. They don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. Players don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. I don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. What we need to do is recognize that we're leaning a bit too much on the gas right now, maybe a lot too much, and find a way to come off the gas. It won't be quick. This is a game with 20 years of feature development and interconnected systems within it. They're all tied into our microtransaction ecosystem. That's not an easy thing to unpick, and so it won't be a mic drop moment where everything sort of gets switched off and we move forwards. It will be turning the tanker into a direction that guarantees another 25 years of sustainable, healthy operation. I think the quick way to answer it is we know there is a problem there. I'm personally invested in creating a more healthy game. So yeah, it's going to happen. It will happen.
It's good to hear him say that they are potentially pushing a little bit or a lot too much on microtransactions right now for RuneScape 3, and that he wants to find a way to ease up on that. Naturally, of course, they have to find other ways probably to monetize it to an equal amount, because just removing a good chunk of your income is probably not healthy, right, for the company itself. Not what the shareholders would want either. So you'd have to find alternatives, right?
I'm sure, yeah, a lot of players are going to be wanting to know more about this. So, you know, that's great. Thank you for being honest about it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what about things that aren't RuneScape or old school, right? There's a lot of upcoming projects, things that Jagex are working on, especially something like RuneScape Project Survival. How do you feel about
RuneScape. That is absolutely RuneScape. It's not old school, but it is RuneScape. Yeah, look, Survival for me is really interesting project. I've been quite lucky. I've played a bunch of the internal builds and some of the alpha test builds as well over the past few months. And the last one, genuinely, a few weeks ago, I was supposed to be spending about an hour just looking through the latest build to check for changes. Spent more than 20 hours playing the game over a weekend. I'm not joking,
way.
I swear. Wow. And so I got really hooked, and I think my girlfriend was worried about my health, and about 4 a.m. I sort of trundled into the bedroom, like, still stressing about goblins just destroying my house without giving up too much. I swear, I actually am.
That's good. It means the game is good. If you're playing that much and you're like, oh, I just want to do a little bit more, you know, that's a good thing. Honestly, like a RuneScape survival game could be really cool. I mean, survival games are massive on Steam. Like, they're so popular. Doing a RuneScape twist on one of them, probably easy money, honestly, if you put it on Steam. I'm excited to learn more about it. I don't have much opinion on it yet, but it sounds interesting.
I'm really excited. This is one of the first big releases that Jagex has had for a long time now, years. And it's one of the few products that I've seen sort of being ideated upon that really deserves to wear the RuneScape name, in my opinion. So we'll hear more about that shortly, but I'm stoked. I think it'll be great.
Amazing.
Well, Mudnorth, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today and answer the questions. The transparency has been really appreciated. I've personally really been grateful for the fact that you've been here. I'm sure the players have too. Speaking of transparency, is this something that we should expect more of moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're at our best when the game teams and the community are closest together. I think that needs to continue, and it's going to be one of my jobs to make sure that it does. But ultimately, I think your game teams, you folks on the front line, already do a pretty great job of it. I think what we're doing with player support, announcing the roadmap in April, is a great example of the tone that we'd like to continue to set. But actually, I don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel on that, to be honest. It's important that the community stays close to the game team, and myself and the rest of the leadership team, we do what we can to enable that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Of course.
So thank you so much, Mod North. It's been absolutely fantastic having you here with us. I'm sure the players are going to be super excited to see what's coming up next in the next update. But thank you all for joining us. We will see you soon.
Thanks, gents.
Bye.
Okay. I mean, already this seemed way better, right, than the previous video. Addressed a lot of the questions that people had, a lot of the things that have been coming up, and they've released it relatively timely as well, only a few days after the official announcement. And as you can see from the community sentiment on this video, a lot more positive. And we're in for a treat because they let you comment on this one. That's already a step up from the previous one.
We need Mod North to be footage. That's the only way to know for sure. Solid interview. Welcome aboard Mod North. Feeling very confident that I won't have to react to another apology post. Party popper partying face.
Yeah, Jimmy coming in here.
I'm shocked the tough questions were asked and answered without beating around the bush. Pleasantly surprised. Looking forward to the future. Welcome Mod North.
Yeah, I have to agree with Lazy Barbecue on this one. I think it's really good that they did those tough questions just to put people at ease.
If Mod North can live up to the vision he just endorsed, then the best days of OSRS are still to come.
A lot of the comments on this one are just very pleasantly surprised, and they're very happy about it in general.
Would rather this guy who has a long history playing and working on the game gets the CEO position rather than some random suit who doesn't play games appointed by the owners. He really does just seem like another one of the J-mods. Actions speak louder than words, but I have confidence.
It seems like the skepticism and the negative sentiment from the previous announcement has been dampened quite a lot with this one. He was saying the right words, they took all the hard questions, good clear responses, didn't beat around the bush, generally very happy with it myself as well. This is the Old School Runescape's community's perspective, and I want to see how the RuneScape 3 community feels about it, because they posted this video to both RuneScape YouTube channels. So as you can see, even on the RuneScape's channel version, vastly positive. And I would argue that the RuneScape 3 community is more cynical and skeptical about things because of their long history with negative microtransactions in their game.
Love to see the clarity on Mod North's stance on MTX. I hope to see actions to back this up in the following months and years. Good luck Mod North. I really appreciated you guys not shying away from asking about his job history and stance on MTX. I liked his response. I'll hold out hope until I see him truly hold a line for us. But I'm cautiously optimistic. Actions will definitely speak louder than words in the near future. That being said, thank you for directly addressing many things that 3 Rupees players are concerned about.
3 rupees, man. I would say overall there's more skepticism in the comments of the RuneScape 3 video, understandably, but people even here seem to be cautiously optimistic, is I think are the words to use. And after the negative first impression that a lot of people seem to have gotten, it's nice to see that he's managed to warm up a bit more to the player base with these questions answered in the way that he did. And frankly, right now we just gotta see how it goes. I'd say that after the first video, I too was a little bit skeptical and on the fence about all this, but hearing this question and answer session has put my mind to rest a little bit, and I am more happy with the way he presented the answers now. Overall, time will tell how it actually goes, but I'm at ease at the moment, and I'll leave it at that, I think. Thank you for watching the video today. If you enjoyed, please do drop it a like and subscribe for more RuneScape content. Next week, I'm starting my questing journey towards Desert Treasure 2 on Old School RuneScape, so you can check those videos out when they come out by subscribing so you know exactly when they release. If you want to check out my other videos, I have a gaming channel with tons of hours of content that you can check out. It's called Rainy Flicks on YouTube. Link to that in the video description below. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll catch you in another video. Rainy out.